Hello everybody and welcome to the tutorial on how to draw hands with Mrs. Kofel. Alright, so I've got my pencil, I have my sketchbook, I've got my hands, I'm ready to get started. So just like everything else that we draw, we're going to break our hands up into shapes. So now the general shape that I would like to start out with when drawing hands is the rectangle shape that my palm or back of hand makes. So I'm going to start out by drawing just a big rectangle on my page, and I'm drawing it with curved lines, and I'm drawing it so that it's a little wider on the top than it is on the bottom. See that? It's a little shorter on the bottom than it is on the top, just like my hand here. My knuckles are a little wider than my wrist down here. So I have the back of my hand drawn, and now I'm going to draw my fingers. So if you see my fingers, they're broken up into knuckles. I've got one chunk of knuckle here, and I've got another chunk here, and then I have my little fingertips. So I'm going to start out by just drawing a general shape for all of my fingers and their first sets of knuckles here. And this is where the first knuckle will start. And then I'm going to draw another general kind of trapezoidal shape to represent the second chunk of my fingers. And then I'm going to kind of leave this space for the tips of my fingers. So it's all kind of coming together into kind of like a triangular shape on top of my rectangular shape down here. So now that I have my sections, I've got my big section, my three little sections, I'm ready to add fingers. So for the fingers, we're just going to break it down using kind of general curved lines. And notice I'm not being perfect with my sketch lines. I'm drawing a bunch of different lines, and I'll decide which ones I want to keep later. So I've got my, well, that one actually I want to make it a little smaller because it's going to be my pinky. And my pinky is a much smaller than my other fingers. And now I'm going to start with my ring finger, carry on with my middle finger, and then my pointer finger. And then I can carry those fingers up to the second set of knuckles, and my pinky is going to just be just barely reaching over that knuckle line, and then I'll have the tips of my fingers right here. So I can generally see where they're going to start and where they're going to stop. And I see I need to make an edit. I have to bring my hand in a little more because I went a little wider than I wanted to. That's why I'm using pencil. I can just erase some lines. Make it a little shorter now that I've made my hand smaller so that it is proportionate. Alright, so now I'm ready to add the thumb. Now the thumb is one of my favorite things to draw. Whoa! Books are falling everywhere. Alright, so with the thumb, it's going to be on the opposite side of the pinky, right? So my thumb is going to kind of flesh out a little bit. It's going to have this curved line because this is the fleshy part of my thumb. And then it's going to kind of come down, and there's a knuckle right here. So I'm going to curve it in and bring that thumb in and just bring out that line to make my wrist. And then speaking of my wrist, I'm going to do the same thing over here. I've got my wrist kind of coming in. It's got a curve right here. There's my wrist. So now I have my hand. It's broken down into fingers. I can now start defining these lines and making it a little more realistic looking. So I'm just going to blend all these lines together. So they're not so separated into chunks. They're now just kind of fingers. I'm going to make little knuckle lines here. knuckle lines here. Maybe I want to add some fingernails. Fingernail to my thumb. And I can also start erasing some of those sketch lines so that we're just seeing the lines that make the fingers and the hand. Maybe you need to bring this in a little bit to make it more proportionate. Make your adjustments where they need to be. You need to bring these down a little bit. Pinky got a little crooked, but that's okay. Some pinkies are crooked. Okay, and there you have a quick sketch of a hand. So we started out with breaking it down into those shapes, remember? We have our rectangle shape, we have our first set of knuckles, our second set of knuckles, our fingertips, we have some basic curve lines to show our thumb, and then our wrist comes down in curved lines as well. So that is the basics on how to draw hands. The best thing to keep in mind when drawing hands is practice, practice, practice. The more you practice, the better you'll become. And practice drawing your own hand in different positions. Closed up like a fist, out to the side, maybe sprawled out with the fingers, any which way. And when you do draw your hand in different ways, include all those little crinkly lines your hand makes too to make it more interesting. Alright, I hope you had a good time following along with this tutorial, and I hope you learned something new about drawing hands. Thanks for watching.